Good morning, our kids and our kids' families. Hey, I want to welcome you to the first ever episode of the Quarantine Kitchen with Pastor Thomas and the Dennison girls. Now, today we are going to be making resurrection rolls. Resurrection rolls. I say it multiple times for dramatic effect. Now I'm going to move the camera in and out for dramatic effect. Resurrection rolls. You're going to need some cinnamon and some Crescent Rolls and Annabelle's favorite spot, the marshmallows. Now you're also going to need a couple tools here. So please step into my kitchen. Always need your goggles. Safety first, okay? Once you get yourself some tools ready, you're going to need a level, most likely a circular saw. If you have a table saw, I think that could substitute for it. A box cutter, but make sure you get some help with that, and definitely a tape measure. Let's get to work. Welcome to the Quarantine Kitchen.
The kitchen isn't here, Daddy.
What?
Yeah, the kitchen's in here, not the garage.
The kitchen's in. Oh, so we're not gonna use these?
No, all the supplies is in here already. That's the garage.
This is not the...
No, it's not.
So we're not gonna use... Welcome to the Quarantine Kitchen. It's that way. We'll be back. So this is a kitchen. Welcome to the Quarantine Kitchen. These are the Dennison ladies. They are going to be our sous chefs and experts for the today, because clearly I know exactly what I'm doing. You shouldn't be worried about what this tastes like at all. I've cooked a lot.
Mama cooked more than you.
Oh, thanks, Molly. Why don't you go get the supplies we need and I'll explain what's going on. Okay. We're making what we call resurrection rolls. Now, resurrection is a crucial part of our faith. We know that Jesus willingly gave himself up as a sacrifice for us. Resurrection means that he died and he came back. That when we thought everything was down, and when we thought everything was broken, when we thought everything was lost, they checked the tomb and the tomb was empty, meaning he had risen. And what's great about that is that because of Jesus' sacrifice, because Jesus was perfect, because Jesus was without sin, his sacrifice brings us back into a relationship with God. Because Jesus is without sin, he was pure. Girls, are you ready?
Yes!
Where's my apron?
Behind you.
Oh, okay, so I saw it.
Marshmallows.
Marshmallows,
Butter.
butter,
Forks.
forks, cinnamon. We are going to use Crescent Rolls. If some of you really want to show off, you can make your own dough. We are not doing that. We are buying Crescent Rolls. So first thing we want to do, and sugar. First, in a pan. And a spatula. I know what I'm doing, clearly. You can trust me here. You can absolutely trust us here. So what I like to do is empty that entire container of cinnamon into that bowl. Not the entire container?
I don't think so.
No? What do the directions say?
You have it right there. Container.
Why don't we check the directions? We'll be back. So it's not the whole container. That apparently will do a lot of damage to you. Don't use the whole container of cinnamon. Girls, tell them.
Don't use the whole container of cinnamon. No.
You want to use 2 tablespoons, and for us, that's going to be the large green one here. So 2 tablespoons. And we're going to pour this into one bowl, and then also 2 tablespoons of sugar.
Granulated sugar.
What does granulated mean?
Not powder.
Oh, look at that girl. Come on. Okay, I want to give you 2 into the big bowl, please. Nice job, Molly. Everybody clap for Molly at home, please. Thank you, man. So right now you can't see what's going on because Sammy has her back to the camera. She would be eliminated off of any cooking show at this point. And I feel like I'm wearing a green dress. How does it look? Is this fabulous or not? It is definitely fabulous. Annabelle, can you mix this together for us, please? Now, before we go any further, we're gonna have some heated things going on here. You're going to need to melt your butter. You're going to need half of a stick of butter, which is how much? Quarter cup. Sammy?
Oh.
Sammy? Try that again. It's going really well. You're gonna need half a stick of butter. All right. Sammy's gonna cut that up, put it in the microwave to heat it. We're also gonna need to preheat our oven. What are we preheating our oven to, Ella Nancy? 400 degrees. Why don't you go ahead and preheat the oven to 400 degrees. We're gonna get those things together, and now it's gonna be time to prep the tomb. Now the tomb is where Jesus was buried after he was crucified. And so what we need to kind of track and understand is that sin separates us from God. Girls, show me with your hands. Sin separates us from God. And a sacrifice is what was needed in order to bring us back into relationship with God. And pop. Oh.
So you're supposed to bang it on the table so it pops.
Or you just use the strength of Jesus and twist it and open them all up. All right, we're gonna prep our crescent rolls into little triangles. These are gonna be our tombs where Jesus will be laid to rest. Two. Now that we have all of our pastries as a triangle, we lost a couple there in the process. One of them ended up on Molly's nose. The other one ended up as a ball in Annabelle's hands. So we ended up losing two. So we're only gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 tombs here. But so that'll work just fine. All right, we want to go ahead and now prep the body of Jesus. Everybody go ahead and grab yourself a marshmallow. Marshmallow me. Marshmallow me. Thank you, Samantha. Now, the marshmallow is Jesus. Everyone say hello to Jesus.
Hi, Jesus.
Hi, Jesus. Jesus is white and pure and clean because Jesus had no sin. And if you were to eat Jesus, it will be delicious. I'm going to eat another marshmallow.
Why did you eat it? You
I ate Jesus.
What's wrong with you?
Hey, Uncle Chuckles is here. Everyone say hi to Uncle Chuckles.
Hi, everybody.
It's an open kitchen. We're good to go. Hey, do you want some Jesus?
Sure, I'll have a mushroom.
No.
It's Jesus.
It's Jesus. Yeah.
I'm just so
See
glad
that?
you ate Jesus.
Baptizing people in the name of the marshmallow Jesus. Oh,
Annie
well,
ate hers.
I ate mine too. We're gonna need more Jesus.
Stop eating Jesus.
All right, no more eating. Everybody have a good one. We need to, at this point, we're gonna put Jesus into the tomb. Now, as we put Jesus into the tomb, there's a couple things that happened to Jesus before he went to the tomb. He was broken. So he was beaten, he was made fun of, he was spit on, they put the crown on his head. He was very unfairly put to trial and then died on the cross, where they actually put nails through his wrists and through his feet. They stabbed him in the side. He went through a lot of horrible, horrible things as a sacrifice, as that perfectly pure sacrifice that brings us back into relationship. Now, we are going to do a couple of those things to Jesus before we put him in our tomb. Everybody take your fork. And you're going to first go ahead and puncture Jesus. That means take your fork and push it into Jesus. Now we're going to put Jesus through some of the butter. This will make Jesus very sticky. Jesus was also whipped and pretty much left completely alone. The way that he felt, the way that he was kind of abandoned by those people around him. So once you are now covered, your Jesus is covered in butter, you're going to roll him around in your cinnamon and your sugar. So get some cinnamon sugar all over that Jesus. Get it all around, top and the bottom. Sometimes need a little sprinkle. Oh, leave it down in there. Put it down in. There we go. Sprinkle a little bit on the top. That's great. And now we're gonna put these Jesuses into a tomb. Looks like this. So set him right there in the middle. Big girls, go ahead and do yours. And while he's on the cross, he actually cries out to God, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which is Aramaic for, my God, why have you forsaken me? And this is the time that we find out that Jesus was separated from God. We know he's separated from God because he feels that God has abandoned him. That is the time that Jesus is taking on our sins, because we know that sin separates us. And Jesus was white, Jesus was pure, but now he is not. Now he is covered in our sin and placed in the tomb. So we're gonna go ahead now and wrap him completely in the tomb. As you're wrapping in the tomb, you're going to need to stretch it a bit and make sure that you're laying Jesus in the largest part of the tomb. Pull it completely around. I like to roll it here, pretending like I've done this before. And then you wanna make sure you wrap up your sides. Now it's really important, especially to the adults helping here, that you go through and you make sure that there are no holes. You make sure that the tomb is completely sealed. And they actually placed guards at the tomb because there were rumors that Jesus' followers were going to try and take his body out, because Jesus actually predicted that he would rise from the dead. And so there was worry from the Romans that someone would try to sneak his body out. So they actually put a guard to make sure the tomb was completely sealed. So make sure your tomb is completely sealed, that there are no holes at all. We're gonna go ahead and do these couple extras here, and we'll get back to you. So we have several of our tombs ready, and there's some interesting things going on right now. I think it's worth noting, and it's something that Miss Nally was talking about here in our commercial break, was that Jesus, who was once pure and white, is now completely covered in sin. He completely took on all of our sin, and he is wrapped inside this tomb completely by himself. And what Sammy just asked was if the marshmallow is going to evaporate. Now, what do you think?
I think it's gonna melt good.
You think it's gonna melt good? What do you think, Sammy?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Well, since it's related to this, it's probably not gonna melt.
Sammy thinks it is related to this. Since it's Jesus, he probably would not melt. He'd have the power to not melt. We're gonna go ahead and load these up onto our tray. We're gonna make sure we spread them out. Our timer is done.
Perfect timing.
Our oven is ready. Rolls. At this point, Jesus is going into the hot oven, and I think there's something there for us to think about as well. That when Jesus dies, Jesus really died. Jesus was an actual man. Jesus was a man who died, and a man who died covered in sin. And a man dying covered in sin absolutely is going to spend his next 3 days in a very hot place. We can say it that way. A hot, lonely place, without a doubt. And it's important to remember that he willingly did that for us. That he started off completely clean and had opportunities and chances to get out of it, but wanted us, wanted you, wanted me to be in relationship with God again, to feel the peace of a life that God designed for us. So we're gonna put these in for 12 minutes, and we'll check back in and see what has happened after Jesus spends those 3 days dark, hot, and alone. Timmy, into the oven, please. while it's baking, I want to recap for you what is really going on here. Easter is an incredible celebration for those of us in the Christian faith, because not only did Jesus rise from the dead, but he predicted it. And if there is a man who can predict his own death, willingly give himself up, be without sin, predict then that he would rise 3 days later and then do that, I think that's a man who's got some things to teach us. I think that's a man that is worthy of following. So I think I want to make sure we unpack that and we think on that and we understand what really is going on. He actually, as a real man, suffered those pains, felt completely alone, felt completely abandoned, and still did it for you. Let's check, shall we? We have some golden brownness. Girlies! Denison ladies! We have some golden brownness.
Smell good.
Thank you. And we have actually some holes in our tombs. So let's set these down and see how they are. Let's cut them open. Now, Sammy is thinking that if this is a tomb, and if Jesus was inside, and it has been 3 days or 12 minutes, what's going on inside now, Sammy? He's probably not there. All right, let's cut him open and let's see what happens. Oh. Lower the camera. Zoom in.
A little bit.
Oh, it's empty.
Oh, that looks so good.
That makes no sense. What?
It melted, so now the dough tastes even better.
No, he rose from the dead.
Sorry.
Melted. Oh, ye of little faith. Is Jesus, he rose from the dead. He will now go and see his disciples. We know he rose from the dead, not because the Bible tells us so, but because many people saw him afterwards. And their lives were changed, and the world was changed after this happened. So, you ready to try some resurrection rolls? Resurrection rolls for you. It's empty.
Super empty.
It's super empty. It's just us not regular empty. It's super empty.